Welcome to the Little 500 Preview Show. I'm Jacob Vinson.
And I'm Josh Eastern. We have a stacked show on hand for you as we get you set for next week's men's and women's races. We'll meet a team in the men's and women's races here in studio, talk to this year's IDS beat reporters, and get you ready to go for race day.
We're coming off of two dramatic races last year. Kappa Alpha Theta won another race on the women's side, while Cutters won its 13th Little 500 on the men's side. Both of those teams are ready to go again for this year, but will, of course, face stiff competition to reclaim the title. Let's take a look at the qualification order for the race this year on the men's side. Josh, what stuck out to you on that side?
Well, I think Cutters getting that first spot, obviously, Cutters. They're coming off their 13th title. They've been so good, but it's also interesting to see in those 2 and 3 spots a couple of fraternity teams. The fraternity teams have kind of fallen off a little bit here in the past few years, but they're trying to reclaim those top spots. We'll talk to Phi Delta Theta later here in studio, but it should be an interesting race, especially at the top. There's some teams as well that kind of got slotted back. That are independent teams that I think will make some moves in this race. But that's on the men's side. What are we looking for on the women's side?
Well, Ski qualifying first this year, the first time they've qualified first, and they're obviously going to be a team to watch out for. Teeter also up there in the top spot, along with DG as well, always contenders in that one. Kappa Alpha Theta, however, a very young team this season, dropped all the way to 11th, but as we know, 8 titles for that team, 4 out of the last 5 years. Always a team to contend. Watch out for Crew, possibly a dark horse. Haven't really been up there to the top in recent years. But then watch out for Melanzana as well. They qualified 32nd because it was on their 4th attempt, but they definitely have some riders to get the job done.
And for more on the women's race, our Molly Levine caught up with A.O. Pi ahead of Friday's race.
The Little 500 race is 3 months away, and many teams are doing the most to prepare early. As stressful as this time can be, one team does their best to make the most of it.
Alexis has been awesome. She's such a motivator. She makes everything so much fun, and she just really gets us amped up to bike. And in the beginning, I was just kind of hesitant because I was dying on every ride we went on. But she's like, "Let's go! It's gonna be so much fun."
Alexis McDonald is a returning member of the AO Pi bike team. Her team's dynamic this year is a little different from previous years.
At the end of the race, at the end of when they ride, I was going to be like, that was great. I gave it my all. I'm really happy with how I did. I just want to be happy with our performance.
In the 2018 race, AO Pi came in 10th place with 4 returners. This year, AO Pi has 3 rookies and only 1 returner.
My personal goal for this race is probably just to survive it.
It can be difficult to get rookies on board, but McDonald has done her best to make these 3 feel less pressure.
She's been such just a godsend through this whole process. I met her basically the first time we went on a road ride, and now she's one of my best friends, and she's just been there trying to keep us motivated and keep us confident. And it's so fun when we're on the rollers. She'll be like, "Okay, think you're in the race, backstretch, you have 1 more lap to go," and just really trying to get us in the mindset of the race even when we're on the rollers.
While they are all nervous about the same thing going into the race,
The exchanges, those kind of freak me out a little bit.
they at least have a solid support system to help them eventually turn from rookie to returner. With the IU Media School, I'm Molly Levine.
I'm here with Ski, the #1 qualifier in the women's race. I have Kata Schroeder and Nicole LaRue on hand. And guys, thank you for joining us here. And let's just get right into it. This is only your 6th year as a team racing. Both of you guys are in your 2nd year racing. The first time you guys have been on that pole position for the women's race. What does that feel like for you guys individually and as a team?
Yeah, as a team, it feels like we definitely finally reached this point where we're supposed to be and that we've worked for all this time. And it feels like we really got a chance to show the field and people watching that we're a strong team this year, I'd say.
So I actually ended up not riding in quals. Long story short, we had a girl that had a hot lap and she could get on our bike pretty quickly. So even though I'm racing in the actual Little 500 race and I didn't do quals, it was still really exciting to see our team accomplish that. And I was actually even more nervous beforehand than I would have been if I were riding, which was weird, but I was so excited when I realized we had gotten the best time.
So now you did get that best time. What kind of went into that in the off season? What did you guys do to get into that best time?
Honestly, I think a lot of it is just the smaller things we do every day. So we go to the gym, we go to the sauna, we visualize at the race, we watch race tape. It's a lot of the more fundamental things that not a lot of teams work on, that we do work on, that help us reach our greatest potential for winning this race.
All right, and then all of your riders are mainly in the top 25 of ITT, so obviously you have a fast time. You're number one on the poll. The best finish for your team is 4th a couple of years ago. What are the expectations going into race day on Friday?
I mean, we're confident, and we don't want to walk away from this race feeling disappointed. So I think our expectations are we're going to go out and put everything on the track and get the result that we deserve and that we've worked for.
Yeah.
So both of you guys are in your second year racing. You have 1 year under your belt. What can you take from last year's race and put into this year's race to get ready for it?
There's not as many nerves knowing you already have experience on the track, and a lot of other people don't really know what they're doing. So being able to control the field and feeling as if other people don't really know what they're doing, so using that to your advantage is really beneficial.
Yeah, I would say mostly that we went into last year's race with less of a plan than we have this year, and so just knowing how important it's going to be to have a plan and follow through with that rather than just going in and hoping for the best.
So let's talk about those nerves a little bit. You've gone through spring series, you've had the practice race. We're only a week away now from the actual race. What are kind of the feelings going on right now, just 7 days away?
It's excited energy more than nervous energy. We're all very confident in each other that we can do well, and we work really well together as a team. So I know even if I mess up or one of my teammates mess up, we have each other's backs, and we have such a deep team that really enables us to do a lot of different things on race day.
And then come race day, it's Friday morning, even Thursday night. Do you guys have any pre-race rituals, anything you do to get ready?
I mean, you get together with the team, maybe have team breakfast on Friday, like team dinner on Thursday, basically just be all together so that when Friday comes, we're on the same page and we know where every person on the team is at.
Yeah. Last year, a bunch of the Cutters alums serenaded us with
The Eye of the Tiger.
The Eye of the Tiger, yeah.
To give us confidence.
It was honestly such an amazing moment. I loved it so much.
There you go. Not a bad team to have serenade you guys before the women's race since they are so successful on the men's side. Well, thank you guys for joining us from the ski team. Now for more on the men's race, let's send it across the studio as Joss is joined by Philip Steinmetz of the IDS to talk about the men's race.
Thank you very much, Jacob. Now we welcome in Phil Steinmetz of the IDS. Phil, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, I'm happy to come in.
So this year's men's race, obviously very interesting. Cutters coming off their 13th title. But what team, maybe aside from Cutters, who has that pole spot, has stuck out to you most?
Yeah, I think obviously you have your top three in the past 2 years when you have Grey Goat, Cutters, and Black Key Bulls. But a team that's really stuck out to me in the spring series has been NEH Cycling. I think they're either 4th or 5th in the spring series standings. They're a new independent team this year, even though they're they're a team with multiple riders that have raced in Little 500 before, including a couple that have raced in the past 2 or 3 races. And then they have a really strong rookie in Fergus Arthur. And so I think they're going to be a really strong contender this year and could possibly be in the top 5 when it's all said and done.
Absolutely. Definitely a team to look out for there. And you mentioned kind of Cutters and Black Key Bulls being those top teams, and they have those top riders in Noble Guyan and Xavier Martinez. But maybe aside from those two, who are you looking out for in terms of individual riders this year?
Yeah, I think you could also talk about, with Grey Goat, you could talk about Jack Dunsford and Nicholas Lazaroya. They were 9th and 10th in ITTs this year, and Grey Goat has placed 2nd the past 2 years. I think, especially with Lazaroya, he didn't race in the race last year, but he did have that strong presence as he was top 3 in ITTs for most of the day until the power hour came later in the night.
Right.
So I think he could really be a strong presence for them this year.
And you've been out at the track a lot this spring, just watching these guys, kind of taking it all in. But what has kind of stuck out to you the most about what's gone on this spring and going into race day? Yeah,
it's really interesting considering this is my first year covering Little 500. So this is all kind of new to me, and I didn't really know what to expect going in, even though everybody knows of how much everybody cared for Little 500. It's such a big deal around here in the community in Bloomington. So for me, it was great to talk to multiple riders and multiple coaches of how everybody's kind of so passionate about the Little 5 and how much hard work people put in for that one day in April. And considering how you really have those top teams and you have a couple of the second-tier teams that are really battling to get up there. So so I've loved to see of how passionate some of the teams really are.
Absolutely. It's such a great community here in Bloomington with the Little 500. Now, before I let you go, I need a dark horse, and I need who is going to be raising the Borg-Warner Trophy at the end.
Yeah, I think a dark horse could really be Forest Cycling, as they had a really strong showing in quals this year. And then, even before some winner, I think actually I'll go out there and say we'll actually have the same top 3 as we did last year.
Okay.
When you have Cutters, Grey Goat, and Black Key Bulls, I think those 3 teams are clearly have kind of put themselves ahead of the pack, especially Black Key Bulls and Cutters have probably 2 of the best riders in the entire field, and then Grey Goats finished, like I said, second the past 2 years, and they have 2 of the best riders returning. So obviously I'd pick Cutters to go back-to-back this year, but I think it's really going to be those 3 teams kind of separating themselves from the pack in the last lap, and it's really going to be whoever takes it at the end between those 3 teams.
Absolutely. So maybe independent teams again. We'll see if a fraternity team can get back onto the podium after some time away. And now we're going to send it across the studio to Jacob Vinson, who's joined by DJ Fessler to break down the women's race.
Thanks, Josh. I'm here with DJ Fetzler, the women's beat reporter for the Little 500 at the IDS. And DJ, you've been watching Spring Series all throughout. But before we get there, let's talk about last year's race a little bit. It was more of a mild race. Wasn't really too many people out in front of the lead pack. There were just a lot of people on that lead pack up until that last lap.
Yeah, what I think is really exciting about the women's race is oftentimes you can't really point out one team that you can definitively say is going to win the race. There was a pack of 10, 11 teams in the end, until Kappa Alpha Theta's Rachel Brown ended up running away with the race and coming out on top, just 1 second ahead of Delta Gamma.
Yeah, Rachel Brown came into that 3rd turn and into the 4th. There was no one behind her. She ran away with it for Theta, picked up their 8th title. But now going into this year, they are a bit younger of a team. But before we get there, let's talk about the contenders for the season. You've been watching Spring Series. Who's impressed you, both riders and teams?
So it's easy to point out the victors of some of these Spring Series events. Ski obviously won qualifications. They'll be in the pole position heading into the race. Lauren Britt from Teeter won the ITTs. But as a team, I mentioned Delta Gamma last year. They're returning all the same riders into this year. They've been really impressive. They placed 3rd in qualifications, and they had 3 of the top 6 ITT riders this season. They're going to be really impressive this year.
Delta Gamma, always a team to watch out for, and Theta as well. And now let's talk about Theta a little bit. Like we said, Rachel Brown won it last year for them. They've won 4 out of the last 5 years, trying to pick up 3 years in a row for the first time in the women's race. But they have a young team coming up. What are they going to look like this year?
Well, I thought coming into this year with the loss of Rachel Brown, I thought they would have to lean on some of their leadership. One name that didn't show up on the ITT heat sheet was Erika Arakawa. She's a senior, and I thought she would be kind of the backbone of the team. I don't know what's going on. I don't know if she's injured. I don't know if there's a chance she may not race. But if not, that's going to be a huge blow for Theta heading into the race, and it might disrupt their chances at going for 3.
So Theta qualifying in 11th this year, DG at the 2 spot, Ski at number 1. A team that might surprise a few people is Crew at number 4. Who are some contenders in this year's race, and who might be some dark horses?
Well, we've mentioned Teeter and Lauren Britt. She's kind of anchoring the team right now. They placed 2nd in qualifications, but in terms of absolute dark horses, I'm going to say Alpha Chi Omega. They've placed 4th in the last 2 Little 500 races. They were 9th in qualifications. Their ITT times weren't, super impressive, but when you look at the entire top 4 team, there weren't huge holes between the times. So I think collectively, they're going to have a chance to win it.
All right, and then you can't forget about Melanzana. They started late in the race last year, had to serve a penalty of 20 seconds. They got all the way back up to the lead pack and ended up finishing pretty well. And it's going to be the same this year. They qualified on their 4th attempt, so they're going to be in that 32nd spot. Only 32 teams in this year's race for the women. But watch out for Melanzana coming out of the back of the pack. They have another strong team this year. But thank you very much for joining us, DJ. Now, Cutters is coming off of its 13th Little 500 title, and our Michael Dugan caught up with the man who crossed the finish line first last season, Noble Guyan.
And that hunger was that rumbling basically throughout the next 12 months. It didn't really ever die down. It never went away.
It still hasn't died down. That's kind of like one of my mantras is, you always need to stay hungry or else you're not going to be fed. It's kind of a cliche, but it's something my coach mentioned to me early on, and he mentioned it right whenever we stepped on the podium in 2018 after we hoisted the trophy. It was like, stay hungry. Or it was maybe that night. It's like, because you've got work to do. And it's like, this is coming from a guy who won the race 3 times. It's like, yeah, you can't rest on your laurels too much.
Walk me through what's going through your head as you're back here halfway through lap 198.
Yeah, so this was the Black Key Bulls had just come on, and they had done a good amount of chasing, and then Joe had just come on, and he shut down that final gap. So I was pretty excited. I was like, okay, like there's enough guys like splitting the workload where I'm able to conserve, and I was still, a little farther back than I probably should have been, but I was focusing on moving up at this point. And at this moment, I was like, okay, I'm going to go and I'm going to sit on jet black. They've been opening the pull up. I'll be able to slip on through. And that was a gamble, and it ended up not paying off for me because he didn't pull through, which is, fine. I'm not him. I'm not in control of him. And he gets swarmed, and I have to go, okay, I need to get out of here. And I remember thinking, there's a lot of guys who have crushed it to get me here. I need to make sure I finish this job. So I slowly moved my way out, and I'm fortunate that the sprint didn't start earlier, and I'm able to carry enough speed and get my initial gap here. Because I knew I had to win turn 1 because of how bad it was, and if I could get to that first turn, I could, because you can see they're all skipping through the turns, and I'm able to take it faster and not skip as much, and I'm saving energy. So I knew I would have to win turn 1 and then win turn 3. Because if you can't pass at that point, you've already spent so much energy. And the turns were pretty rough that day, but at that point I had saved energy through 3, and I see Grey Goat on my outside, and I go, oh, I've still got a ton left, and I just kick in the last that I have. And I guess the big question I've always been asked is, like, were you ever nervous? And really, nerves were never going through. It was like, if you're nervous in that situation, you're not the person who should be in that situation. I knew what I had to do, and it was like, okay, I need to move out. I was able to move out, got boxed, got out the back, and was able to come around and win turn 1 like I said I was going to all day.
In a word or in a few words, how would you describe the team's mindset leading up to this race, your last go-around in this race?
Everything to prove and nothing to lose. It's hard to stop that.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Noble, thanks a lot for coming in.
Yeah, awesome.
Really
man.
appreciate your time.
Of course.
Best of luck to you guys. Have a great and have a very safe race as well.
Thanks, man. Appreciate it.
One of the teams who will be chasing cutters this year is Phi Delta Theta, and we are pleased to be joined by Jeff Beaumont here in studio. Jeff, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, anytime.
So we were just talking about it off camera, but you guys have had a long history of chasing cutters. So I mean, is history going to repeat itself? Are you going to try to buck that trend?
Yeah, we're really looking to buck that trend this year. I think they're definitely the team to beat, and just having the history there kind of motivates us a little bit more to be able to get by them on race day.
So you guys this year are going to start in the 3 spot. So in that front row, I guess, what was that feeling like when you found out that would be the case?
We were pretty happy. We knew that going into quals, we had a really good chance to take the pole, and exchanges are really our team's thing. Pretty good at them. So quals is something we were excited about, and we were really happy that our time held throughout the day. The track got pretty nasty out there, and we were pretty delighted when we figured out that we qualified 3rd.
Absolutely, and you guys have a decent amount of experience, you yourself and also with your teammates. How do you think that'll help you come race day?
I think it'll be good. Basically, just a lot of pack riding skills come into play in the race. We really want to ride a safe race, and having experience on the track I think is really going to help us do that. And really just knowing other riders and being able to like strategize off that, just know who you're racing against.
Absolutely. So you have a few years under your belt, I guess. Why did you get into Little 500, and kind of how did it happen?
Our house has had a pretty strong history of good teams, and the year after I joined was we lost 4 seniors, 2 pretty notables, Rob Lee and Ryan Romanesco. So seeing those guys ride their last race really motivated me to like want to join the bike team and start riding, and just kind of like following their footsteps and kind of keep up the tradition of having a pretty solid bike team.
Have you biked, I guess, prior to coming to Indiana?
I never biked before IU, no. But I started, this is my 3rd year now, and I love it, and I'm really glad I started to do it.
What is this Little 500 community like? Because it seems like there's always stories of, I mean, I met my future wife through Little 500, or I met some lifelong friends through it as well.
Yeah, I've definitely met a lot of lifelong friends through it, and just between IU, Little 500, and
Indiana University Cycling Club. That's a club that's like really grown, but I've just met a lot of cool people, and it's just nice being able to go out on the track and just know a lot of people you can talk to. We're pretty friendly with all the teams, and it's good to just be able to go out there and have a good time, because at the end of the day, it's all about having fun.
Absolutely. And you mentioned kind of that history of Phi Delt. How much does that kind of come into play and push you guys come race day?
It really does. You know, we have a lot of guys, and we want to really be able to go out and show that we're still a strong team that we used to be. And I think this year it's going to be the culmination of 2 build years that after we lost those 4 seniors, just be a culmination of having 4 solid guys all here. This is going to be our last race together, and we've put in the work. We're ready to just go out there and let it show on race day.
Mm-hmm. What do you think's the strong suit of you guys' team?
Our strong suit, definitely good exchanges, and I definitely say that we have some guys that can sprint. So, yeah, definitely looking to key in on just some faster laps. I think that's where we're going to be able to stick.
What are you most looking forward to come race day, whether it's kind of hanging out with the team or actually come the actual race?
I really like the morning of race day just because we all wake up and it's a pretty chill morning, and we have a lot of alumni come back, so that's always cool to just get to talk to them. Just a lot of guys like previous champions too. You know, we got guys from the 96 team and 2001 team that always come back, and just like recent alumni from probably like 2010 and on. So it's always cool to like see those guys there. Just like kind of reiterates the tradition that we've had of just how many people have been involved and how much we love our team.
So Friday happens, the women's race is complete, you guys are on deck. What's going through your head that night before?
Night before, definitely just want to get a good night's sleep. You know, I'm sure that the Friday before could probably be a pretty loud, pretty wild night for a lot of people on campus. So for us, you know, we just like to stay inside, take it easy, you know, stretch, get a good dinner in, and listen to music, relax, and just kind of keep our mind focused until we get to the track, and it's all business from there.
And then what has this past, I guess, few months been like, just preparing for your last race, knowing this will be it?
Yeah, it's been pretty tough. Our training this year, we kind of based it around doing a lot of collegiate races. So we did a lot of collegiate racing, and then we stayed at the track for spring break. And and this year, you know, you don't have we lost a week between spring break and the race. So it's really been full throttle since spring break, probably 2 weeks before that for us. So it's been really fast paced. Can't believe the race is already here, but really excited to get out there.
Absolutely. Do you have any race day rituals that you kind of go through every year?
Race day rituals, I wouldn't say, no, not really. You know, we just like to keep a chill morning, just like keep our minds off the race really until we get on the track and start warming up. And definitely listen to some good music, I think, is a big thing for just about any team. But that's about it.
All right. Well, Jeff, thank you for coming in.
Yeah, anytime.
Good luck on race day. And
thank you. I appreciate it.
We look forward to it. So while he may not have a specific race day ritual, Molly Levine caught up with a few riders that do have a race day ritual.
Race day rituals, what you got?
Wake up early, try to shake off the nerves, choke down a couple pieces of toast, maybe drink a bottle of water if I'm lucky, and then go to the track with my team.
Race day ritual, I have to listen to the intro of Love Sofa by Chief Keef. Chief Keef ain't about this, Chief Keef ain't about that. Listen to it twice, that's it.
Set my alarm for 8 a.m., wake up, stretch. I watch The Office, Safety Training Part 2, best episode. Just gets you nice and relaxed, feeling good.
Something that really, makes you confident.
Yeah. I always like to wear a good pair of socks. If you have good socks, you're going to race well.
What kind of socks do you wear on race day?
Something colorful. I have a nice pair of purple and pink socks. I have these blue and black ones that I have on right now. And then last year we had another pair of pink and blue socks.
Every year I got a haircut the Friday before the race, just because I like to feel the wind through my hair and like to look sharp.
What kind of haircut do you get?
I actually, every year I went in and just told the barber to make me look fast.
You getting that?
I eat 2 packets of oatmeal every 2 hours before I race.
every bike race I do.
So you just drink baking soda. You gotta drink it, but I use this topical form. It kind of like rubs on like a lotion, so you don't have to like there's like some side effects if you drink it, like makes you sick to your stomach.
Charlie, what are your race day rituals?
Well, I'm a freshman, so I gotta race before I get any race day rituals.
It doesn't stop you from being sore, but it kind of delays like the onset of fatigue.
Keeping it relaxed with the guys. Don't want to be doing anything crazy like watching Breaking Away or race tape because that just makes you psyched out and you probably won't even sleep the night before.
What are your rituals?
The one thing that I've done every single year is just watch the race tape from the year before.
Always start off with a black coffee with some peanut butter and oatmeal with a banana chopped up in it.
So you eat that before the race. Do you eat anything after the race?
Subway sandwich.
I'd say Nick's the most talented, at least in the hair department this year. But he's got the chops going, he's got the stash going, and I think the little, I don't even know what they call that thing, but
It's a flavor saver, man. This is what's gonna win.
Weather has wreaked havoc a bit with the spring series schedule this year, but it was a beautiful night for ITTs. Jacob, on the women's side, what are we looking at?
Well, a lot of impressive riders, and we've seen Ski on that pole position for the women's side. They actually had 5 riders in that top 25, but their best rider in the 5th spot, and Rachel Kalbfell, is not going to be racing. She's a rookie for the team this year. Ski has 4 returning riders, so they're going to send those 4 out there, not even have their top rider in there, but outside of them, they still have 4 of the top 25 times. Obviously, Teeter, a very good squad as well. They have 3 people in the top 25, 2 of them in the top 10. But then Delta Gamma, they have a really strong squad this year. 3 of their riders in the top 6 of ITTs. And then you also have Rachel Camplain of Alpha Phi Delta. They're in the middle of the pack, but she's a very good rider in that 3rd spot of ITTs. So a lot of impressive riders, a lot of impressive teams, and most likely we're going to see those top teams in those top few spots this year. But on the men's side, what do you got on there?
Well, it was a really exciting heat that saw our top 2 times. It was Noble Guyan and Xavier Martinez. But it was Xavier Martinez taking that top spot by less than a second. It was such a great heat with him, Jonathan Jaggard, and Tom Settle of SIGEP. And Tom Settle is going to be another interesting rider. SIGEP is kind of a team that's lost a little bit of depth, so they don't have as much experience, but Tom Settle is at the top of that team. He can carry that team quite a ways, but it'll be interesting to see come race day kind of how that works out. But in that top 25, we saw a lot of Grey Goat, we saw a lot of Bears, we saw a lot of BKB, and we saw a lot of Cutters. Those are kind of those 4 teams that I expect to be up there once again at the top. We've seen a very similar podium here the past few years. Grey Goat has finished runner-up just the past 2 years. So they're looking to finally maybe get over that hump and get into that winner spot this year. But a lot of good riders in this race, a lot of good sprinters in this race. But I think there's a good variety of sprinters and guys who can really take home a lot of laps. So it'll be interesting to see come race day kind of who can be those sprinters and who can be those riders to keep teams in the race late.
Absolutely. And well, that's going to wrap it up for us here today. We hope you tune into both Little 500 broadcasts. I'll be joined by Caitlin Van Kooten and Mary Kate Hamilton as pit reporter for the women's race.
And I'm excited for my 3rd and final year on the broadcast. We'll have Charlie Hammond, and this year for Jordan Bailey, and Eddie Cotton will be the pit reporter. So for Jacob, I'm Josh. Our entire crew will talk to you from Bill Armstrong Stadium.